Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, how's it going, guys? I am Joshua Kemble, as mentioned at the top, and we're going to be working on comics today. On the last stream I did today, I debuted my new album, Modern Monsters, which is available everywhere, so I encourage you to pick that up, or pick up Two Stories or Jacob's Apartment, my two graphic novels that are currently out. And right now, what we're going to be working on is page 116 of Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which is a really interesting one. Nice. Dylan said, one of 3 art cult leaders has sent out a call and I answer. Yes, that's right. My cult. Yes, the Kremlin. Join me in my quest to take over the art world. Okay, so anyhow, we're going to be working on comics and probably just shooting the breeze and talking about stuff. And we'll see how that goes. So, let's stop looking at my pretty face and let's go to our drawing stream. Oh, wrong one. There it is. Okay. So, up here, you're going to see basically my mug as I work. And then down here, you're going to see, a little bit of the Wacom action. So it's an action cam, you see. Dylan said, the way I pronounced page sounds Canadian. I want to know how I pronounced page Canadian like. Page, their hoser, their A. That's what it's all about, from A to Z. Z is the one that cracks me up. And we have a lot of amazing Canadian artists in our group. Namely, Philip Chandler and Christopher Runtsman. They're great people, exceptional artists. But I swear every time they say Z, I chuckle a little bit. I'm a horrible American. But there's something about just Z, like, why is Z pronounced Z? And then I'm curious which is closer to the original pronunciation. I'm guessing Z is probably closer than Z. Z is the name of the weird, creepy dude in Pulp Fiction, from what I recall. Okay? It's just not an alphabetical letter. Yeah, okay, so here's an interesting thing. Do you guys ever have weird little quirks? Like talking quirks? Like words that you stumble on? A good example, like my mom, for instance, for some reason, since she was a kid, will confuse the words left and right. She doesn't confuse what is left and right, but it makes for horrible directions when you're learning how to drive as a teenager. Because it's like, go left here, and you end up getting in the left lane, and she's like, no, the other left, and you're like, oh no, it's you meant to say right. And then Philip said sigh. Americans can't say out. I don't know. I kind of think Canadians have it wrong. That's my opinion. I don't know if that's the case because I know Americans say things really dumb. Like we say a lot of dumb things. And heck, right now, we possibly might have a dictator next year running our country. So I'm not going to brag too much about the intelligence of our country. Because again, like about 40 to 50% of our population might willingly just totally give up democracy. That's where we're at. So I can't clown on other countries too much. I love the US and I'm very proud to be an American. And, I might even in other years, I might even sing the song about being proud to be an American, get all choked up and like wrap myself in an American flag. But not this last few years. It's I can't hold too much on Canada. I can't clown too much, guys, on you, because we have some pretty dumb people in this country. But anyhow, so but the thing that's weird is I still think we're probably a little closer to the original pronunciation of things like out. Cuz out is ow, o u, not oot. It's just like to pronounce o u ooh is just that doesn't sound right. Um you know what I mean? Like that just phonetically, I don't know. It seems wrong and Canadian and evil, like Canada is. That's what it seems. I love the idea of depicting Canada as like some evil nation of like the nicest people on the planet. So it's like, just the idea of Canada being like, like there's all this talk and worry about immigration and stuff in this country. But what about those Canadians that are trying to come down here and take our jobs? They're coming straight through Buffalo, New York, and taking our jobs. Those Canadians. It needs to happen. That needs to happen. If we're gonna be all isolationistic and ridiculous here, it's time we crack down on the real enemy, our neighbor upstairs. Philip was saying, "Oh, I'll go there, sunshine. I'll go there." But no, Canada is a beautiful place, and I'm kind of jealous of people who live there because, like, even traveling up there and visiting, I was like, "Wow, it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place." There's a lot of booty up there. I mean, beauty. Oh my goodness, that was not an intentional mispronunciation there. Anyhow, it's a beautiful place. All right, so Frank Salazar is in the chats. Our mod, how's it going, Frank? How you doing, man? Um, yeah. So like, I feel like that needs to be the new big freak out about immigration and stuff. Needs to be really worried about the maple syrup export, the underground railroad of maple syrup. The syrup trail, big syrup, is what people need to be worried about. BS for short, but it's big syrup. It's the invasion of maple syrup. They got a pipeline that is secretly being built in North America that's just pumping syrup from their trees. And it's costing us a lot because we have places in the Midwest that could make syrup, but no, like big syrup in Canada is coming and just destroying our economy. The whole syrup economy is destroyed. Okay, so yeah, Dylan was saying BS is an issue. Frank said I introduced my sons to maple coffee. How could you, Frank? Now you're a part of the problem. You're part of the Canadian division. What's anyhow? You're part of the problem, Frank. I thought you were one of us. Yeah, Frank was saying, were you actually talking about maple syrup? This is my kind of conversation. Yeah, that's true. Philip was saying we can cut that line anytime. And that's the problem. They're getting all. This is my new conspiracy theory. They're getting all the Americans, all of us good old patriots, hooked on syrup, hooked on maple syrup, like 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 drug addicts. Just you know, almost like having to like shoot up maple syrup just straight to the veins because it's just such a intense, you know, natural sugar high. And they get us hooked and then they cut the pipeline. That's the plan. And after that, they're going to give us free healthcare. And we're going to be so mad at that. We're going to be so angry that everyone would have health coverage. We'd just be furious. It and ironically, that actually is true. Like Americans would be really furious. How dare you give me health care? How dare you, sir? I have the right to die in the streets. Give me that right. I'll die for that right. Let's see here. Oh, nice. Yeah, Frank said he sang a Backstreet Boys song about maple syrup, and I wouldn't put it past Frank because Frank has a love for maple syrup that transcends nature. It's a love that will transcend time. It you know, the syrup love will live on in infamy, far past Frank. That's how deep, that's how strong his love is. If you've ever heard that Otis Redding song, "That's How Strong My Love Is," that's a song that actually was ghost written by Frank Salazar for Otis Redding about syrup. That's how it goes. Frank said, "I did. It's on my channel." Frank has done a lot of serenades. My favorite time Frank ever did music was his Little Mermaid cover, which I think was legendary and still fills me with joy to this day. Yeah, and I can't remember when we did that. That was pretty good though. So yeah, so working on comics, getting the comics going, trying to shade this page. I've been thinking a lot about, let's see, there's a lot of things I've been thinking about. I think sometimes, guys. Sometimes I'll think things. My sister just was like, "Don't ask me about that." She's gonna walk the Burns. He's a good dog. We have a really good dog who's earned a good walk. Sorry. Where is he?
I think he's
Burns. Bernie.
Walkie.
He's been like begging for a walk for like a half an hour, and it was like way too hot out. And now I think he's like moping outside and just totally missing his opportunity to get a walk. Let me go get him. Oh, yeah, okay. And it was really sad too, because he'd like come up to, like, he's one of those dogs that like loves walks so much that he'd come up to both of us, like, and he leans against you and like kind of goes paw, like paws at your, like, come on, let's go, let's do this. And it's like, dude, it's 112 degrees outside. Like we can't, like, if I took him on a walk an hour ago, his paws would have like burnt off, you know, like, but you know, I guess that's one of the hard things about having pets is you can't really tell them, like, you can't talk to them and just go, "Hey dude, like, we're going to walk. It's going to happen just in like an hour, my dude, not right now when you'll die if we do." And I'll die too. Like, it's not walking weather in my region of California right now. Speaking of, how is the weather in the Texas? Texas is a little, see, I think I understand why Frank is comfortable having syrup in Texas, because Texas is, Canada's got a much further way to go to take over Texas. Like, California will fall to Canada quicker than Texas. Like, Texas they're like the last stand for Canada, It's a long trip down to get to Texas. And in order to get there, they have to go through us first. Or Arizona and Nevada and stuff like that. So I can see why, if you were a Texan, you would take the threat of the Canadian invasion. Those Canadians making it, that there's a real problem with that too. They're putting paper mills out of their jobs because they have better paper than we do. They took our job. Okay, anyhow. Frank said he's going to see if he can find that video. Cool. Yeah, you should link to it in the chats too. Since you're Mr. Mod, that would be cool. All right, what else? What else has been interesting? There is a clip. I'm gonna talk politics a bit because that's what I do. I do that sometimes. So there's a clip out there of Donald Trump. He's talking to like a Christian group, kind of like the Southern Baptist Conference, but I don't think it's the Southern Baptist Conference. It's one of the big conferences. And he tells the group, and this is an audible clip, like you can, and it's not like out of context. He's pretty much saying, and I'm gonna paraphrase it, but he's pretty much telling them like, hey, Christians, I need you to show up and vote for me just this one time. And you'll never have to vote again because we're going to fix it. We're going to fix the whole thing. So there won't be votes, basically. That's the latest wild thing. And what's weird to me, and this is just bizarre to me, and I don't understand it. I've never really quite understood it, except that it's a cult. And that makes me kind of start to understand the logical loopholes that people will go to defend their orange master. But it's Trump just directly saying pretty much like, there's not going to be another election if I get elected. Like, and don't get me wrong, like there's a lot more going on than that. So it's not like I'm just being hyperbolic here. I mean, like the dude tried to coup the government the last time he left office. And basically caused an insurrection, and now is like has a thing called Project 2025, which is basically mapped out and he's talked about this, that on day one he plans to suspend the Constitution so that he can prosecute his enemies and solve the border crisis. So he's going to just temporarily suspend the Constitution. And also, he recently had the Supreme Court give him full immunity with justices that he appointed, approving this, giving the executive power full immunity over any criminal charges for any official act that the president commits while in office. So he pretty much just had the Supreme Court make the president of the United States a king, a kind of power, a limitless power king. And like the same people who get like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, like tattooed on their arm because they, love it. They have their "Don't Tread on Me" flag and like, their sweet love of country and patriotism and stuff like that. These same people are cheering this on as we're like losing the very structure of this whole weird democratic experiment we've been doing for a while in this country. And and the way it works is like, I posted a clip of Donald Trump saying this, like he's saying it just word for word, like pretty much saying, I need you guys to vote. You will never have to vote again because there won't be another vote. Like it's dark, man. It's dark dystopian future kind of stuff. And and what I noticed was anyone I know who leans slightly right was responding to this by um justifying what he was saying, where they're like putting words in his mouth that he wasn't saying, and saying no, what he was saying was like, yeah, I just need you to show up this one time, and then the next 4 years, I'm not going to ask you to vote again. But that's not what he said. He said you will never have to vote again because we'll have it fixed. You know, and then they'll say, well, when he was saying fixed, he doesn't mean like fixed like you'd rig a game or something like that. And it's like, no, in context, it kind of, that sounds like what he's saying. But again, like, it's bizarre. He said this quote years ago where he said he could kill somebody in broad daylight, on the city streets or something. And that like his supporters would still just follow him. And it's true. It's true. It's definitely true. Where it's like he's openly, gonna aim for like a pretty dystopian future. Dylan said, I don't think these people have read the Constitution or the Bible. I agree. I think part of the problem, because I was thinking about this a lot, I think part of the problem is cultural Christianity. Because I'm a Christian, like I'm a believer, but I'm not a cultural Christian. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I wouldn't call myself a cultural Christian. In fact, Christian culture kind of grosses me out. Like a lot of it, like Christian music, Christian books, Christian bookstores, Christian schools. These are all things that like I think deserve wild criticism, because a lot of it is subpar things that are being marketed as good, basically, and are just like pandery terrible art or pandery terrible writing, but it's like fitting with like the culture wars, and so it's like it somehow gets a pass. It's like a Gina Carano movie, where it's like if you look at these movies, they're awful movies, like it's not like they're making like these great movies and then those movies are getting canceled because they're like such incredible pieces of artwork. It's like, no, they're making subpar things and then kind of passing it, to their base and saying like, hey, cult, you need to support this. Because it's cult material. This is written by people from the cults and we need to support the cult. It's the same reason I didn't like, the whole Comicsgate thing. I think like most of the stuff I've come across that came out of Comicsgate is not good. It's just not even good stuff. And it's not going to save indie comics, and it's not, high quality work. It's just like crap that like they're marketing to people by saying, well, yeah, but it's our team, and it's like, dude, you know what? The thing is, your team sucks. Like they suck at making art. And if they got better at making art and stories, then you'd have more representation of your viewpoint, but they just kind of suck. Like a lot of those stories suck. And so I guess what I'm getting at is like, I feel like there's this weird thing of like, I don't know. It might also be getting older, right? Where it's like, dude, I remember, the people who were canceling music, I remember in the 80s, the whole satanic panic thing. I remember all of that stuff. Like, you can't fool me to think that like people on the right are like anti-cancel culture. Like that's never been the case ever. The only time the whole like anti-cancel culture kind of stuff started happening was when, they were a little bit out of power, and some of their people started bearing the brunt of some of the things they say. And the thing that's weird is, if you look back to like the 70s and some of the public debates that were happening between the left and the right, it was often the right saying that things on the left needed to be canceled because the purity and the family values and the values of our people and stuff like that, they were often canceling politicians because it's like, a good example is like Bill Clinton. They thought this guy is just morally bad and we need morally good leaders. And again, like all of this kind of stuff, all of these standards, all of these cancellations that the right has done for years. And then there's a period of like 2 years where they start complaining about quote unquote cancel culture. And now look at like accounts like Libs of TikTok and stuff like that. Like there's an account on Twitter called Libs of TikTok. And they used to basically poke fun at liberals that are canceling people, right? And now what it's become is pretty much like a hey, this person spoke badly about Donald Trump and here's where they work, here's their address, right? And then people are literally showing up to like Home Depots where people work because they made a tweet, and like going like, how dare you have a job? And it's like, dude, these people are not anti-cancel culture. They're not, and the thing is, they're also not pro-values. Like they use values when it suits them. Like they're really against Jeffrey Epstein and that whole disgusting thing until their guy was caught on the flight list of Jeffrey Epstein. And then suddenly they're like, oh, well, that doesn't, we're just going to look past that. And we're going to actually elect that guy to president. But we really don't like Jeffrey Epstein. And it's like, but he was flying on flights all the time with the dude. He hosted, like, there's testimony from the victims of Jeffrey Epstein that a lot of the bad things happened at Mar-a-Lago. Like the resort that Donald Trump owns. Like it's just the double standard is so beyond like anything I'm willing to be quiet about anymore, because it's just boring. It's not just boring, but it's like I'm too old to be fooled by someone on the right pretending that they're for free speech. That's just never been the case. That's never been the case at all. It's, I saw a couple years back who was burning copies of Mouse, like literally burning copies of Mouse, and trying to ban those from a library, because, oh my goodness, it has obscene nudity in it. And it's like, if you've ever read Mouse, the nude scene in it is not pervy. It's like a picture of Art Spiegelman's mom in a bathtub after she had killed herself. It's not like, ooh, this is a hot spread that I'm gonna like. It's not pornographic. It's anyhow. My point is just that the right has just lost their minds, and they've been really good at pretending that they're the bastions of free speech and the bastions of art and the bastions of the new underground comic movement, which is BS. They didn't start underground comics, nor are they revolutionizing underground comics. Underground comics have existed for years, generally done by people on the far left, generally getting canceled by people on the far right. That's just how it's been. That's just the history, And here's the thing. When people on the left have canceled people, I think that's a dumb thing. I don't think we should be canceling anyone. But I'm just saying, I'm not dumb enough or young enough to think that that is strictly a phenomenon on the left. It's not. It never has been. And don't fall for it. Don't fall for the shtick. They're not the good guys. They're the bad guys. They've been the bad guys for a long time. And I know it sounds like I'm like otherizing people, but I am kind of in this scenario. I mean, I am dealing with people that I know that you can give a direct clip of Trump saying something in context, and it's horrible. And they will, there's like a whole chain that they'll go down to justify whatever awful quote it is. And these will be quotes where he's saying stuff like, I want to suspend the Constitution. You know, things that if somebody on the left said, they would lose their minds. Like, lose their minds. They would say, this is the end of the world. And they'd go on, wild conspiracy theories and stuff about this stuff. And there's a whole chain that follows if I bring this up to someone, like with a Trump quote that he said, that I could show them a video of him saying in context, very much meaning what he said. And the first thing they'll say is like, well, he's just being hyperbolic. And it's like, is he though? Is he? Like, that's what they were saying the whole time he was talking about voter fraud and potentially not accepting, the results of the election, which he was saying the entire time as that was building up. And I remember that whole time people being like, yeah, but he's not really going to not accept the results. That's just him being hyperbolic. And then he calls his friends over and they attack the Capitol building. And they're like, well, they're just being hyperbolic. It's boys will be boys. Like, it is insane the level of like Matrix style backbending to avoid any sort of acknowledgement of what this guy has actually said and done. It is mind-boggling to me. He's said and done these things. Last week, he said he was going to have the last election in American history. He said that. He said he was going to have the last election. People wouldn't need to vote after this next 4 years. Once he's elected, you'll never have to vote again. That's the gist. That's what he meant. And again, they'll go to like, well, he was just being hyperbolic. And if you point out that he's not in the context of what he's saying, then they'll be like, well, it's just taken out of context. And then if you point out the context, they're like, well, he's just a guy who just says some wild things. And then you point out like January 6th, and they're like, yeah, but he didn't really lead the insurrection. And then you point out like, no, like he had like a false slate of electors set up. And then they'll start getting lawyery, like in a weird way where they're like, well, was that really an insurrection? Were those really fake electors? They really weren't electors that were established by the states, but can it really be a crime if it didn't succeed? It's like that they'll go anywhere to kind of justify this man's behavior. The dude, the dude was charged in court for rape, okay? He raped somebody. He molested a person, and they'll deny that, or they'll be like, oh, that's the liberal media, like attacking blah, blah, blah. And it's like, meanwhile, Bill Clinton years ago had like a consensual affair that was horrible. I don't think that's a good thing for a leader to do, but they were all over the place about like, oh, this guy and the lack of morals on the left, or like, and the second it's their team, it's just like all the morals, all the grandstanding, all the like the convictions, all of the religious beliefs, everything goes out the window. And I think it's because they're just cultural whatever. Like, they don't actually believe these things. They're cultural constitutionalists. Does that make sense? It's not. These aren't people who like the Constitution. They're cultural constitutionalists. They haven't read the Constitution. They haven't read the Bible. They like the Bible as like a prop, Um, but I don't think these people have read it. I don't think they've read it. I think they see it as like a political tool. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just got sucked into a cult, you know? But it's like, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing. Let's see here. What's going on here? Frank said back to your maple and gave a link to the maple thing. Dylan was saying, if you're willing to accept Trump being like that, then you can do the same for gay children. Yeah, I agree. But they won't, because again, it's like it's pick and choose your morality whenever it suits you. It's pick and choose who you dislike or what you support or don't support until it suits you. Be really hyperbolic about violence or about horrible things that have happened to people on the left. But the second anyone on the left maybe makes a joke that's inappropriate about the other side, cancel them, like destroy their job. Anti-cancel culture until it's like art that they don't like. And then it's like, no, this needs to like get destroyed and demolished, and we need to ruin these people's careers and lives and stuff. That's kind of where it's at. And I guess I'm talking about it like a little more openly because I'm kind of done cosplaying. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like there's a little bit of like almost like cosplay or pretend that we're being asked to play, and I don't like playing pretend. Unless I'm writing a fiction book or something, I don't like playing pretend to make somebody feel better. That's not what I do. And so if you're asking me to play pretend that Trump didn't say the things he said, that he hasn't directly tried to take over the democracy, that he's not, I mean, it's so obvious too, because if you look at like all the guys he ran with, like the VP, right? Where's Trump's VP? Why does he have a different VP this time? That's like really unheard of. Like whenever an incumbent runs again, they tend to run with the same team, right? Same VP. It's like, the winning team. Why did he switch VPs? Why is almost everybody involved in his administration not around and not supporting the guy anymore? Why does everybody who seems to get close to this guy, either get arrested and then, still hangs out with Trump because magically they got a pardon from Trump for what they got arrested for? Or those who didn't get arrested and pardoned by Trump have pretty much like abandoned Trump like a sinking ship and basically said, this guy is dangerous to democracy. And these are people who are like far right people. And yet like somehow, we have to give this man more charitability than anyone on earth who would be in the same spot. And the weird thing is, they do give this guy more charitability than like, that song Sympathy for the Devil? That's pretty much what they give Trump. They give Trump more sympathy than anybody on the planet. Like, I can't even comprehend the amount of insanity to that. And I don't doubt that there are people who probably support the guy and are not terrible human beings. But I also think they're so stuck in this cult that they cannot see. They just can't see. Like they're just. It's almost like they're blind. And it's hard to. It's hard to even know how to navigate that in. Because again, like I remember, as a young man in this country, around the time of like the Iraq War, there used to be pretty healthy debates between friends of mine on the left and friends of mine on the right. And it got heated, because it was about a war. Like in general, there were a lot of people I knew, especially people on the left, who were very against the war in Iraq. And there were a lot of people I knew on the right who were very for the war in Iraq. And it got contentious, and it was heated. It was not like this beautiful, we hold hands and all get along kind of thing. But there was this capability between people I knew on the left and on the right to have interesting substantive discussions, and have disagreements without having moral failings. And I miss that. Because I think at this point, if you support that man, you have a moral problem. You have a huge moral problem. And not only that, if you support that man and say that you like our country, you have a real constitutional problem. That's my take on it. I almost wish that people would just be more honest, people who support the guy. By the way, we finished that panel, which is great. And I'm going to probably get a refill of water because it's like 1,000,000 degrees. But I almost think it would almost be better if they just admit what they are. Like, if they just admit they want a king, they want a guy who's above the law. They want to overthrow the public vote. Like, they're not for democracy at all. If they just admit that, I think it'd be a little easier to deal with. If they're just like, you know what? Yeah, we want a dictator. We want a ruler. We want a king. We're kind of done with this America thing. If they admitted that, it'd be a lot easier to have conversations, or to at least they'd be being honest. It's the dishonesty that's annoying. If they stopped pretending to care about culture issues, you don't care about morality. You can't back Trump at this point and have the moral high ground. That's BS. You can't talk about caring about the morality of leaders when you're literally backing a guy who slept with a porn star while his wife was pregnant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the guy's not the bastion of morality. He's a bad person. And if you like him, you got to admit, at least, he's a pretty terrible human being. So yeah, like, stop the moral grandstanding. Stop pretending you're against cancel culture. You want to cancel everyone. If you're on the right and you're listening to me right now, you probably want to cancel me. Like, that's just the way it goes. Like, you want to ban art, you want to ban books, you want to ban freedom, you want to restrict who people can sleep with. You want to be in people's bedrooms. That's the right. That's been the right in the last few years. And so, I guess it's just the pretend. Like, why do we have to play pretend that that's not the scenario we're in? That's the part that's annoying. It's like, oh my gosh, you know what it feels like? When when my son was like a toddler, there are like ways you had to deal with talking around a toddler because they're a toddler, and so you kind of tiptoe around things. You're very patient. You have to kind of go through, you have to explain things a little slower. You have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt because they're just a kid. They're like, they were a baby like 5 seconds ago, and so you have to like put covers over the outlets in the house, so the kid doesn't like put their finger in an electrical outlet. You have to kind of soft pad a lot of things. You gotta spoon feed with sugar sometimes. I'm tired of treating right wingers like they're toddlers, like they're not. Like, why do they get a pass? They've been denying, like, they denied like a global pandemic. They're conspiracy theorists. A lot of them are insurrectionists and back the idea of a new American revolution. A lot of them are anti-American. They have no problem with the Supreme Court literally giving king powers to the president of the United States. I have seen no one I know who leans right has said anything against that decision of the Supreme Court, which literally gives the president like crazy powers, where the president could technically like kill someone, like one of their political rivals, and claim that, you know, the person was a threat and say that it was part of their official duties, and have a full pardon. Like they wouldn't even have to pardon themselves. And the most they would ever be held accountable to that is basically getting impeached, which would mean just getting taken out of office. But they can't be charged with crime. That just happened like last month. You know, and I don't see all these like hardcore like, oh, I care about our country and the original constitution. I don't see any of those people coming out and saying crap about it. Like, they don't care. They don't care about the Constitution. They never have. That's the thing. Like, and I'm tired of kind of playing of treating these full-grown adults, some who are much older than I am, as though their mental capacity just can't handle I want equal expectations. I'm going to start expecting from people on the right the same level of civility and decency and rationality as anyone I know on the left. And if I don't see that, I'm just going to call it, because I'm tired of the kid glove thing of like oh yeah, like I need to hear your viewpoint about these things that if people believe could actually cause people to die, or like, you know, like the COVID conspiracies and the Biden kid conspiracies and all the pro-Russia nonsense, like all of this stuff. I'm done. And I'm just an artist, you know. Oh, nice! Frank found one of the Little Mermaid parodies, and he linked to it. And I'm also done, like, as a cartoonist at all, pretending that like these wild, like, crappy comics that have been, you know, force fed to people, you know, that are like the Comicsgate stuff. Like, they're horrible comics. Like, they're awful comics. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some great cartoonist, but these are not good comics. They're not revolutionizing comics. They're like capes and tights dressed in a different realm. They're not doing anything that like is revolutionary in comics at all. Like, it's just not the case. And I'm not going to play pretend just because, ooh, good for you. No, it's let's stop pretending. Why do they get a pass? Why because somebody labels their stuff as like Comicsgate, does the bar for criticism just fly out the window? Like, they don't have to be held by the same bar of quality, the same expectation. I don't understand it. I feel like it's this weird double standard where they've almost conditioned the environment to where it's like, we don't have to undergo the same level of scrutiny you'd give anyone else. And that to me is nuts. Like, that's wild. Dylan was saying, I've been seeing a handful of the IG gym bros come out as Trump supporters, and it makes me sad. Like, you're not beating the dumb big muscles guy stereotype. I guess I'm just saying, like, it's this playing pretend thing is getting dangerous, because there's an actual faction that wants a dictator to overthrow the country that I love. And that's where it's like, we're not playing a game anymore. This is real dangerous. The memes were funny for a little bit, but this isn't a meme anymore, guys. It's, you know, it's like you're literally going to ruin the country. Like, you will ruin the country. You will literally kill democracy. And people are like I had somebody recently be like, we need to tone down the rhetoric because that's going to cause people to be upset. No, like, tone down the rhetoric when things tone down, but when the actions that are leading to the rhetoric are literally insurrectionists that are trying to temporarily suspend the Constitution and and literally are rigging and stacking the court system so that the executive power in our country has limitless power of a king. And I'm supposed to not be speaking about that. Like, I just have, what do we do? Play pretend that that's not what's happening? That's the bizarre part. It's like, that's not hyperbolic. That's just reality. That's like, it's something I've also seen recently too with the whole, there's kind of like this take that I've read recently regarding the Trump thing where, like especially after, what happened recently, that I'm not going to, somebody tried to unalive Trump. Right. And, after that, there's been this whole talking of like, we need to like tone things down and like cool the rhetoric and stuff like that. And even the last time that I posted, literally just a video of him saying that that he would make it so that we didn't have to vote again if he got elected. Even in that, one of my friends on the right was like responding with like, we got to really cool the rhetoric, man, because this kind of thing could lead to like real violent stuff. And I'm like, cool the rhetoric. Like, I'm not making rhetoric. I'm just quoting the guy. Like, that's the thing that that I think is hard about it, where it's like, when people are like, well, what are you doing? Like, painting this person as a pseudo dictator, that's going to make people really act weird. And it's like, no, but the thing is, if he actually is a pseudo dictator, like what else are we supposed to do? Just treat little dictator in training with kid gloves? Like, it's so nuts. Anyhow, whatever. All right, guys, we have been streaming for about an hour. There is much more to do. I need to get some water. Dylan was saying when the meme becomes reality. Exactly. Okay. Here is, you know what? We have Frank here. Here's Frank's adventures at the library. I might get some coffee. That's what I might do, because I need more caffeine. I'm not worked up enough. I get more worked up, but let's get some coffee real quick. Frank's adventures at the library. Be right back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Cremble.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories, and Jacob's apartment. And who is Joshua Kemble?
Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide.
You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. All right, let's go.
All right, guys. We are working on Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And I was ranting. And it was pretty fun. So there is a yesterday, because so my wife is out of town. She's doing a trip to visit her mom and stuff like that. And so it's given me the opportunity to catch up on sleep, which has been really good. Because, man, like that, I think I talked about it on the last stream. But the thing I was doing over the summer was like teaching something that I've never taught before. And so that meant creating a totally new curriculum for like 2 classes. Very last minute. So it was just like being up super late doing that. And then, and so that just meant a lot less sleep. So I have caught up on sleep. Yesterday, I went out to get a drink with a friend, and we drank beer and chatted and caught up, and that was really fun. And I've been getting caught up on my comics and my art and stuff. So it's been really nice, even though I do miss my kid and my wife and stuff. It's been like a nice reset to kind of get ready for the next year. That's going to be, more work, more crazy, that kind of stuff. But anyhow, what's interesting, right, again, is like the chilling effect of where I live. And this is just going to be in regards to like the whole freedom of speech thing. Some person is recommending a bunch of comics. Awesome. Dylan said, no one is above criticism. Nice. So the thing that I find weird is a lot of people who are supposedly very like freedom of speech, that kind of stuff. They might even have like a tattoo that's about like the right to bear arms and freedom of speech. Like those are like the 2 big guys. And yet where I live, like if I go to a bar or I go out or I'm at work or anything like that, if I say anything even mildly political, it can be kind of dangerous in my area. And that's weird. That's a weird kind of chilling effect on the freedom of speech, where it's like, I kind of know that in my area, if I said something and it sounds a little too left, that could cost everything. Like it could cause violence. It could cause, a loss of career. It could cause all sorts of things. That's weird to me. That's weird to me that the same guys who get this stuff like tattooed on them and have their "don't step on snake," like literally create such a chilling effect in whatever places they live. It's very strange to me. Yeah. So anyhow, and here's another thing. Like Tenacious D. I love Tenacious D. I'm a big fan of comedy. I've been a fan of comedy for a long time. Right and left leaning comedians. I think comedy is a beautiful thing. I think it's sad that Kyle Gass had to quit Tenacious D for a joke, and that the right was just up in arms demanding it. Like, that to me kind of sucks. Like, is that the kind of place we want to? Is that the kind of thing we want to make here? It's just so dumb. Like, I don't know. I that stuff just bugs me. Yeah. So that was me on a hot, crazy rant. That's basically what that was. I've told you guys I'm a big fan of Guitars Garden. They're like this. They're this guitar company that imports Chinese guitars that are like super cheap, but so far, the 3 that I have play as good as my Fender or my Gibson. And I don't know if that's how they all are. Maybe I've just lucked out on each one that I've gotten. But these are like beautiful guitars and they're like very affordable. I'm rambling, by the way, while I work, because that's fun stuff. And if you guys have any questions or anything you wanted to talk about, feel free to let me know in the chats. So anyhow, they just announced on like one of their fan groups that next month they're going to release a White Falcon. So the White Falcon is like this big hollow body Gretsch that is a magical guitar. It's this big white like Gretsch, like 1950s style. It's like a rockabilly machine. It's like a country banger. And like a lot of the best musicians in the world have played these things. I think Frusciante plays one every once in a while. I'm pretty darn sure it's been played by like almost everyone. The thing is, the actual White Falcon though is like a $5,000 to $6,000 guitar, sometimes $3,000 if you're lucky. And Firefly is going to be making it, which means it'll probably be in like the 200s in cost, which I'm really excited about. So that's something I'm going to be keeping my eye out for, because I don't have a full hollow body guitar. I have a semi hollow that's like a 335, basically that was made by Firefly. It's what they call a 338, but it's pretty much like a clone of a 335. And now they're talking about this White Falcon, and the pictures look excellent. And again, like, I've had such a good run, and such good luck ordering from these people that I feel like I might have to get one of those. So that's one thing that's on my mind. What do we got here? We're getting there, guys. We are getting there. I need to have like a more believable cast shadow from her here. There we go. That needs to get a little darker. Okay. So that's something I've been looking forward to. I think I mentioned on the last stream that I was a little disappointed. I tried to watch Deadpool, and I don't know if it's just where I'm at right now, or if this might be just like a thing, but I kind of mentioned I'm sort of over superhero stuff for a bit. I think I'm kind of over it. Like, I think I kind of got over it in the comics part, and I think I'm kind of over it now with my own tastes. Like, and don't get me wrong, I have friends who are making superhero books. That's great. That's wonderful. But I think I'm kind of done, especially with the dark hero stuff. I feel like the dark hero stuff, unless it's Batman, I feel like the dark hero stuff is just getting really old, where it's like ultra violent, and it's like, I'm going to say snarky things while murdering tons of people brutally. It might just be my age. I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting. It didn't seem that well written. So anyhow, so that's something I might I might be avoiding in the future. It's just kind of boring nowadays. Some person said there are so many people so many genres people can do. I've heard historical is one. Historical is one I'm working on. This book, Not Death But Love: The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, is a historical fiction graphic novel that I'm working on. Dylan said, I had to help my dad with his nightly meds and other demands, so I'm back now. Nice. I hope he's doing okay. So, the thing that that I've been thinking is like, I don't want to be like a negative human where all I'm doing is like critiquing, because I think that's a bad quality to have. And I feel like maybe my last stream was verging on that a little bit, where it was just talking about the negatives. But what I do want to do is start talking more and more about the type of stuff that I want to see, that I love, you know? And I think that's maybe the angle to take on it. I don't know. But I do know I was just surprised by how like viscerally I was not into the Deadpool thing. And it's funny because for years I had heard about it from a lot of people that I trust, and like everybody was saying it's hilarious, it's a great movie, it's so fun. And I don't know, I saw it and it really did strike me as something I would have really dug when I was in junior high. Dylan said he's been better today. It was a bit rough, so hopefully tomorrow will be better. Today was a bit rough. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But yeah, so I don't know, and so then I also, again, like, the wife's out of town and stuff, so it's like times where I'd be just kind of dozing off. I'll put on a movie a little more often, the last few days than I regularly would, right? Because generally I'm just working, and then if I'm not working, I'm like hanging out with my kid, or, hanging out with my wife, or sleeping. Like those are kind of the things I tend to do. But it's like, if she's out, it's like, and my kid's gone, it's like I suddenly have a little bit of time, not a ton. I'm still like overworked and have way too much to do, but I still can squeeze in a little more time for like, movies and stuff like that. So I tried watching The Acolyte, and I've gotten like 3 episodes in on that. I don't even know. I don't even know if I like it. I don't like it. That doesn't seem bad. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's maybe this is a byproduct of making stuff too. And I'm curious what you guys think about this, but I feel like sometimes when you start making stuff, consuming stuff just gets less interesting. I don't know if that makes sense, but because it's like, so far The Acolyte doesn't seem awful. It definitely doesn't seem like a terrible show. I don't know. I haven't found it to be like the worst thing they've done with Star Wars. Let's put it that way. But it's not like, I don't know. None of this. I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of. I think I'm in a mode where I kind of want to see some new things at some point. Because the like kind of old stuff that's like just rehashed to death, it's starting to feel really old. Like, and I'm eager to see like something real good, real artsy and new. I don't know. Dylan was saying it seems like Disney can't hire great writers. But then it's weird because Andor, I think, is arguably one of the best Star Wars things that's ever been made. So it's like, and that was Disney, hiring those people. So, and Rogue One was great. Like, so it's like, I don't know, with things like Andor, I feel like Andor was compelling, Um, so yeah, I don't know if I could say that. Dylan was saying that exhale. I love it. Nice. But I do know that, like, again, it's been an interesting few weeks where an interesting few months, honestly, where I've been hit with just this crazy inspiration to make stuff. And then in the last few days, I've had these like brief moments of like, oh yeah, I should like consume some stuff because I have like a minute. And I'll do that. And I'm like, I don't feel like I've been missing much. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like this, cause like sometimes when I'm like working on stuff, I'll almost like envy people who just watch TV or like kind of zone out and reset. And I get it. It's like, it's especially after like a long day at work or something. It's nice to like sit down and like watch something or whatever, but it's weird because it's like the times I've tried it, I'm like, man, I'd really rather be like writing a song or working on a comic or making something, like, because like this isn't that great. Like, it's not. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of where I've been at lately. So it's like a blessing and a curse, because it's like there's times where you're just like, it's the end of the day, you want to just watch something and just enjoy it. And I've been finding myself just like not really getting into it. Maybe I've just been picking the wrong thing. So you guys tell me if you have any recommendations of something that, like if I was winding down at the end of the day, I could watch and would be good. Let me know. Yeah. Cause I'm sure there's good stuff. I'm sure it's like I kind of feel that way about music sometimes, where it's like, when I was really tapped into music, there was so much good stuff in the underground, and you just kind of had to be aware of it and like seek it out. And now I'm just like older, so I'm like less clued in to like the underground and like what's happening, like musically. So the perception of music, it's easy to kind of start getting that old man view of like, music's not good anymore, but it's like, I've been one of those people like most of my life that I didn't like a lot of mainstream stuff. And so I just have to dig a bit to find the stuff that spoke to me. And if I'm honest with myself, that's kind of how I am with music now. Like all I hear generally is going to be like mainstream stuff, or occasionally like some underground stuff will swim my way. Or I'm just like digging way back into the past with like weird old garage bands or like bands that I somehow skipped over from eras that I like. But I'm sure there's a lot, currently that's great, that I'm just missing, just because I'm not like fully tapped into the pipeline. And I'm sure it's like that with movies too, Oh, Dylan was saying, I recommend Onks the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. I have been meaning to watch that, and I love that comedian's Onks the Fortuitous YouTube stuff, and I was so pleased to see his Kickstarter get funded. And I have been meaning to see that. So you know what? I'm going to write that down because that's one I even forgot to just check out. And I think that comedian's really funny. Onks the Fortuitous. Thanks for the recommendation, Dylan. That's great. All right. So we're getting there. Philip said, I got BritBox and started watching this dark detective series called Vera. That's so good. Nice. It's a detective story? What is BritBox? You have to tell me. Is that like a BBC kind of thing? What is BritBox? I'm really curious. Dylan was saying, please watch it. It's really hilarious. Well, I'd imagine so, because like that guy's sketches are so funny. I still remember, I think it was the first one that went wildly viral where it was him at a Wendy's. He like kind of did it in such a real way that like for a while, I think the entire internet thought it was really a dude at a Wendy's being interviewed. And it was one of the funniest internet things I had seen in years. You know, it was like up there with the "Why Must I Cry" music video. I don't know if you guys remember "Why Must I Cry." That was old internet memes right there. BritBox is all British TV and movies. I shouldn't say that out loud when my sister's near, because she might want to get it. BritBox, all British movies? That sounds amazing. Is it like it's like a streaming thing, or that sounds kind of amazing is all I'm saying. Because I do love British stuff. The British. I especially like British mysteries a lot. I'm still like really drawn to the BBC Panorama stuff, like David Suchet's Poirot. You know, like that kind of stuff is like so great. It was so good. Nice. And Philip was saying, like Dylan said, it's a streaming channel. Philip said, I love it. I've been on this British kick. Nice. Well, I mean, would that maybe have something to do with your recent trip to England? Maybe just a little bit. I would guess it might, because I know Philip, you just went to England recently, posted some pretty magnificent pictures of England. All right. Philip said, well, 2-1. I've had an affinity for the UK for a long time. The trip was long overdue. Yeah. Well, I love the UK. And I think for me, the thing that got me really into British TV was British humor. And I've talked ad nauseum on this channel where, man, like Monty Python, I don't know, something about Monty Python hit me at the right age, and then it opened me up to all sorts of British comedy. It got me to read Douglas Adams, and from there I started realizing, like, because I think like growing up, I felt like, I find things funny, but I have a different sense of humor than a lot of my friends and stuff like that. And then when Monty Python like opened this box of like, this is your humor window, like this is the stuff you dig, and it spoke to me so well. Like it spoke to my sensibilities and my sense of humor, and really informed like my exploration of like stuff I enjoy, like for comedy. And then like led to like Faulty Towers and all sorts of stuff, but also some like better stuff, like even dramas or like TV series on from England. Like one of my favorites that's really sappy is called As Time Goes By. I absolutely love that series. And again, the BBC Panorama, like Sherlock Holmes and like all of this other stuff, but it all kind of started, in my opinion, with Python, where I started realizing like there's people here that like in England that get it like more than a lot of American comedy like spoke to me. And I like a lot of American comedy and stuff, but I feel like that made me really love England. The other thing about England is people who have British accents just sound cool. Uh, they always sound cool. We watched this documentary about this. This was adorable. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was I think on Disney Plus, I think. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was on Netflix, but it was about this guy who like lives in close to the where was it? It's like at the edge of England, like towards like bordering the Arctic or something. I can't. Anyhow, he lives at the side of the ocean, like from in this house. Like him and his wife kind of moved to this like small town, and oh my gosh, there's a type of dog that comes from the area that they lived. It wasn't the Highlands. It was I can't remember. Anyhow, point being, he this older man and like his wife, they've been married for a long time. They've been living in this area, and he's been like going through kind of like depression because they didn't have kids, and they're kind of past the age of having kids. But him and his wife kind of feel like he's missed out on that, like being able to be a dad kind of stuff. So he's kind of going through this like mild depression, and then he comes across, and by the way, it's a documentary, and then he comes across an otter, like a river otter, that is like orphaned, like it's kind of screwed, like it's been orphaned, it's lost its family, and the otter just starts like hanging out with the guy. So he starts feeding it like fish and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, he's like, basically training this otter how to hunt, and like the otter's starting to give the guy this meaning in his life and stuff. Anyhow, my point is, these guys had like the guy in this documentary had like a about the otter, and the guy had like this like Welsh type accent. Like it was a really thick, like almost Scottish, like kind of British accent. And he sounded so cool. Like that's the thing. Even the country accents in England just sound so poetic and lovely. I don't know. So I'm also a little bit of a Anglo. Is it an Anglophile? Like somebody who's obsessed with England. But yeah, I definitely relate to what you're saying, Philip, in that sense, because there is something just magical. Yeah, but he definitely had like a Welsh accent. So yeah, let's see here. Yeah, he was saying, some person was saying, yeah, they kind of sound Scottish. Yep, it was definitely like a Welsh-ish accent. I wish I could remember this specific area, because like I said, there's an actual dog that's bred in this area, that's on the coast. But it's great. It was good. Philip was saying after staying there for a week, you can't help but fall in the accent for a little bit. This is funny. So one of my sisters, it has like wanderlust. So it's like, I'm like a homebody. So like for me, traveling isn't something I seek out. Like it's not something I'm against. It's just like, it's not on my like top list of things to do where it's like, man, I'd love to just travel. And like, for me, it's like, if I think of like an ideal weekend, it's not like going on a long trip. It's like, I'd be at home. I'd be able to play music. I'd be able to like make a warm cup of coffee and like, you know what I mean? Like I'm a homebody. Like it's just my nature. But my sister's like very much the opposite, where she, spent like a couple years living in Australia. She lived in England for a while. But what's funny to me is every time she's lived in another country, when she's come back, she's had like a faux accent from that country. So like when she came back from Australia, she lived there for 2 years. And when she came back, she'd kind of talk like this. And I'd be like, Fawn, you're not you're not anyhow, it's just funny because I'd be like, you're not Australian, you know, but but she'd always, it would take her like a week or two to kind of like settle and like lose the accent, you know, that she'd acquired while living there, you know, because I do think it'll kind of rub off on you, like if you live somewhere for a while, you know, eventually you're going to start taking on the parlance of that area. Like if somebody lives in California long enough, they're going to be saying dude, you know, they're going to be saying like a little more often. They're going to be saying you guys. And if you live in Texas for a while, eventually you're going to say y'all, you know, it's just going to happen. Yeah. So, Philip said, Dylan was saying poser. Philip was saying, people just have accent appropriation. If I moved to England, I'd be in full RP accent within a month. I love the idea of Philip, you be getting a full British accent, and it needs to be like the hello there, hello there, old chap. You know, it's like the type of British soldier type accent that would be the man with the pith helmet, who's like, yes, we're going to make these people more civilized. I think that needs to be the Philip Chandler accent. You know? It needs to happen. When it's like, hey there, I dare say I'm Philip Chandler there. I don't know what that accent was, but it was an attempt. Dylan said, I wonder if Arizonians have something like that. You know what, Dylan, that's the thing. I think because Arizona sounds a lot like Californian to me. Like I'm going to be biased because I don't hear a California accent ever. Like I people from California, because I live in California, so it just sounds normal to me. And then I would imagine if somebody like Philip's listening, he's like, you know, Josh sounds a lot like a Californian, you know. Even me saying, you know, and like, right, I guess would probably sound like an accent of some kind to somebody not from here. But I think like wherever you're from, it's going to sound more and more like an accent the further it is from the voice and accent that you yourself have, right? And so to me, when I hear people from Arizona talk, I don't really hear an accent. You know, I was going to make a joke about Arizona politics, but I can't think of one. But I was trying to think of something funny. It's like the tip off that you're from Arizona is when the racism comes out or something. I'm just kidding, by the way. Arizona's pretty rad, and also it's a purple state now, which is very cool. And also, by the way, one of the best flags in the entire nation is the Arizona flag. Like that is a beautiful, beautiful flag. One of the ugliest flags in the world in the United States is the Utah flag, just because it's like it was like designed by committee, you know, where it's like if you look at the Utah flag, you can tell it's like a committee was like, yeah, but then we need the state seal. And then can we throw some like bees on there and some honey and like, oh, let's throw in this other iconography. And it's like 15 people being like, no, it needs this. And finally it like gets thrown in a spinner with paint that just splatters every color on it. And that's what that flag looks like. Arizona flag is like graphic design, pretty basic, you know, beautiful flag. It's just a great flag. It's like, it's simple. It's iconic, well designed, limited color palette. It's a great flag. Dylan was saying, I didn't know we're purple state. Yeah. It's Arizona is known as like a state that can swing, which is kind of interesting. So, and weirdly, Texas is becoming a purple state, which I'm very excited to see. That's a strange one, but it's possible. So, progress will happen. Yeah. Dylan said, "Graphic design is my passion." Well, I mean, again, like the Arizona flag's beautiful, man. I feel like it's a good one. It's a very good one. What's the other one near there that has a really pretty flag? I think. Am I crazy? I think New Mexico has a really beautiful flag too. Actually, it kind of complements the Arizona flag. They're very nice flags. And I'll give it up to Texas. They have a pretty darn good flag too. But the graphic designer in me, at my old job, we did a lot of resort stuff, where it was like dealing with different states and souvenirs for different states and stuff. So I had to work with my fair share of really badly designed flags. And so my appreciation of things like the Colorado flag, like just beautiful flags that are like real simple, real graphic. The Chicago flag, like these are great flags, it became kind of almost like a side quest to like find the best flags, Dylan was saying, I agree. New Mexico and Texas have great flags. I think the California flag's pretty cool. It's a little busy, but the bear, it's simple enough. It's definitely not one of the worst, I think California's got a pretty good flag. But there are some flags, man, that, the ones that really bug me are the ones where you can just tell like a committee of people were like, we need to throw everything in the kitchen sink on this flag because we only get one flag. And then they ruin the flag by just, basically like adding like 50 seals and like a million different little details and stuff. And it's like, no, simplify, guys. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Anyhow, so that's something to think about. Flags. All right. What else? We're getting there, guys. We're doing the interior of this this here thingamabop. Dylan was saying, how often do you see scorpion candy in California? Never. But it's because, like, here's the weird thing. Scorpions are not really a thing. Even in the desert area that I live in, there's just not, I don't know if they're, like, native to at least this area of California. I don't know if there's, like, sections of California where you get out there and maybe there's scorpions. But, like, I have, like, the desert that I live in, I have never seen a scorpion. Like, not once. I would be really freaked out if I saw a scorpion. But what are really common out here are like black widows. Like black widows are like all over this desert. Like basically if you own a home in my area and there's a section of your house, like a garage or something like that, the likelihood that there's price in black widows is pretty high. It's just like part of this area. Like they just thrive in this area. Black widows are just a thing in the desert that I live in. And it's funny because that doesn't, I mean, I am not eager to run into a black widow. When I was going to elementary school out here, every once in a while you meet a kid who got like really messed up by getting bit by a black widow, so it's like, it's not like a small thing, but it's kind of like, it's part of the territory. And if you start getting a little further out, rattlesnakes are really common out here because it's desert. But it's like, but yeah, scorpions are just not a thing. So I remember when Scott Cirkland was telling me that, yeah, like scorpions are a pretty common problem in Arizona, and he was saying it's not unusual for like a house to get scorpion infestations, and then they have to like shut down the house and like have it fumigated for scorpions. And I was like, whoa, no way. That's crazy. It just seems wild to me. I think that was part of a conversation where it was talking about, we were talking about how weird it is that when you live in a state, you get used to whatever like monsters and natural disasters live in your area. So it's like, to me, like a scorpion just sounds like, oh my gosh, or like a tornado sounds insane. Like, I don't know how anyone's going to live in an area that has tornadoes. That's crazy. But then like, if somebody talks about earthquakes, I'm like, yeah, like, I mean, I'm not looking forward to them. Like, they're not fun, but I mean, like it doesn't seem as terrifying as the unknown, right? Because it's like, yeah, I've been through a lot of earthquakes. Yeah. Chris K said, what? Scorpions aren't real. That's only in the movies. Well, also in 80s rock and roll, you know what I'm saying? But Dylan was saying Arizona loves a good Seguro cactus. It's the state's crack. Okay, that I believe, because when I was a kid, I did live in Texas. And I have a vivid memory of cactus candy, because that was a totally normal thing in that area. It was like cactus candy was a big deal in because I used to live kind of close to Fort Worth, Texas. And as a kid, yeah, we'd get cactus candy quite a bit. So I remember that as like a really uniquely Texan kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's like an Arizonan type thing as well. Because I do think Arizona and Texas do share quite a bit of culture. I don't know why that is. I'm curious if people from Texas settled Arizona, because they're pretty close to each other. But I'm curious like how the migration happened there. But yeah, the cactus candy thing is definitely a Texan and Arizonian thing. The one thing I'll say about Arizona, though, is like, man, their Mexican food is not good. And Gary Hodges has made claims otherwise, but I disagree. I don't know. I need to be proven wrong on that, but I don't think they have good Mexican food. I just don't. I don't buy it. No. But I will say, I know so many nice people who live in Arizona that it started to make me think maybe that's the place to live, until I see those weather reports where it's like trash cans melted yesterday. And then I'm like, nah, like, but I got to say, I know a lot of great people who live there. And I've met a lot of people in California who grew up in Arizona and are really great people. So I don't know. Maybe Arizona just makes nice people. Dylan was saying, I love cactus candy. Nice. Saguaro being pronounced wrong? What? Some person said, scorpions seem like nothing compared to millipedes with their thousands of freaky legs. I don't think millipedes are that dangerous, though. Am I crazy? I think it's centipedes that are like poisonous. Am I wrong on that? Somebody do a Google search on that and find out. But from what I recall, I don't think millipedes are like a real threatening creature. They might be really creepy, but I think that centipedes are more dangerous. From what I recall, I think centipedes are the ones that can like really mess you up. But I think millipedes are just kind of creepy looking and generally kind of harmless. Am I wrong on that? Like, it'd be funny if it's like the polar opposite. Because I remember a long time ago kind of reading about like centipedes versus millipedes. And I think it was centipedes that were like they'll mess you up. Black widows are pretty creepy too, and they're really common in Southern California. And again, like a black widow bite can send you to the hospital. It can give you a heart attack for sure. I mean, it's not like a brown recluse. Like those are like freaking crazy, man. Like brown recluses. When I lived in the Northwest, those were a thing. So when I used to live in Portland, that was a thing out there, was brown recluse. And those things, man, like you're not walking away from that kind of spider bite. Like that's going to burn a hole through your arm, you know. But Black Widow's not great. Not good. Yeah, some person said yeah, the centipedes are the dangerous ones. Yeah. And I think millipedes are really creepy looking, but they're kind of harmless animals. Like or harmless bugs. You know what bugs look really cool though? There's like those stick bugs. And those bugs that look like a leaf that remind me of in Bone, the comic Bone, there's a Ted who's like he's like a little leaf bug that's got like a big brother who's like a big old dangerous leaf bug. But those are pretty rad bugs, the ones that like camouflage themselves as like like those are kind of common around here. The one thing I'm not sure if we share with Arizona, you'll have to let me know. I know that one unique thing about the area I live in is we have a lot of Joshua trees, and that's apparently like a very unique thing about the area we live in, is that there's just like Joshua trees like everywhere. And they just they thrive in this desert. And I've heard there's only like one other place in the world where Joshua trees really do well. So that's like a unique thing about the area I live in. And they're kind of pretty from a distance, but they're not the most habitable tree. Like there's something really comforting about a tree, in the, in the sense that most trees, you could like sit under, they'd provide like some shade on a hot day. Maybe you could climb the tree, it could be like giving tree type thing. You could make paper from the tree. You could build a home from the tree. Maybe, you could start a cartel that sells syrup, and you could start your invasion of America from Canada with your syrup cartels from said tree. That's a shout out to the joke that I was making about Canadians taking over our country. But like, anyhow, point being, trees have this like magical kind of very like, they're almost like symbolic of life and meaning and family roots and stuff like that. And then there's Joshua trees. Joshua trees are none of that. You can't do any of that with Joshua trees. You can't lean against a Joshua tree. If you do, you're going to get stabbed by the tree. It's going to stab you. It's going to like prison shank you. Like, you can't make paper out of a Joshua tree. It's not really going to be a tree that you like sit under that's providing you with shade. It's more like a tree that wants to kill you. But it is pretty from a distance, but it's a tree with spikes, it's a tree. It's a punk rock tree. It's like, a Joshua tree is a tree that wants you to not feel, at home or at all habitable. It's a tree that wants to kill you. That's what my desert's known for. Are trees that will mess you. These are trees that are gonna get you. You know, they're trees from the Road Warrior. You know, um, yeah. Wasn't that the name of an album? Yeah, the Joshua Tree, right? Because it was like very novel. It was a U2 album, one of the best U2 albums. Honestly, Joshua Tree might be my favorite U2 album. It's a pretty good one. And the cover of it was, I think, all the dudes from U2 next to a Joshua Tree, which I'm sure to most of the world looks like, wow, that's a stunning photo in a far off vista with a lovely tree that I've never seen or heard of. And to people who grew up in my area, it's like, I don't know, it's like naming something the gas station or something, because it's just so common around this area. However, I will say we get beautiful sunsets, gorgeous skies, and I do think we do share a lot with Arizona in the sense of like vibes and culture, with just the weather. And we have we have some of the cleanest air in LA County, so that's nice too. I know that other areas of LA County get so like smoggy, and we have, yeah, we don't have pollution as bad, and we definitely don't have light pollution either. So at night, you can see the swirls of the Milky Way. And I think that's something that you get in a lot of areas of Arizona too, where it's like you can actually see the swirly sky. And that's pretty cool. That's one of my favorite things about the desert. That and the sunsets and sunrises are really beautiful in our area. Quite often it looks like the sky just exploded in the mornings and nights. And that's pretty cool. Dylan was saying, yes, the stars. Dylan said, do you feel like Joshua Tree has become more popular over the years? I think Joshua Tree was kind of a mass hit when it came out and has just retained the test of time. But that was an album that exploded when it came out. Like that was like peak U2 powers. That was probably the album that really blew up U2. Like there were other albums and stuff like that, but when the Joshua Tree came out, it was kind of like that was like the big U2 album at the time. I feel like it's kind of equivalent to like Automatic for the People was for REM, where it's like REM was getting a buzz and becoming this like mega band. But like when Automatic for the People came out, it was like they were like the band at the time, because like it was just a perfect album that like had almost every song on it was like a radio hit, and yet also hit that like, so it hit that pop culture threshold where it was very popular, but it was also hitting that, you know, critic yeah, like there's a couple albums like that in history. I feel like that happens with music and movies sometime, where there's every once in a while you have something that's popular and hits like peak popularity, but also peak critical acclaim. And so it's like the stars aligned, where it's like poetically beautiful, but also, you know, received well and hits like peak popularity and doesn't take like a decade or something to like catch on. Whereas you have bands like the Pixies or something like that, where, you know, their albums took like 20 years for people to acknowledge and realize these were genius albums, you know, or Joy Division, you know, bands that like were kind of big, but not really, never really hit. And then they kind of explode after the fact. Those are different, but with U2 and the Joshua Tree, I mean, that was like there at the time that came out, there was no band bigger than U2. Like they were the band. And I think kind of retained that status for, about 10 years or something, but it was all based on, the build up before that. But I think that, in my opinion, I think that was like that was the iconic album that kind of broke them. And I feel like with REM, it was definitely Automatic for the People. There's a lot of great albums and stuff. But it was definitely Automatic for the People, where they just kind of like, there was no denying, like, this is the band that fills stadiums now. And actually, nice. I'm going to borrow Dylan's comment there. Dylan said, please like the video or else Joshua Tree will prick you. That's right. You're enjoying the shade of my Joshua Tree here. In the uninhabitable environment of the desert we're in. And, I'm providing some shade for you guys and some rest, some calm from the storm that is outside. And so the one thing you could do in return to not be pricked by the Joshua Tree is to click that like button. That was a long stretch to basically say the same thing Dylan said more eloquently. But yeah, hit like if you haven't, if you're watching the stream. We're going to be working on comics for quite a while. I plan on working for probably about another hour, maybe. I'd like to ideally finish this page, but that's going to depend on my need for sleep. But yeah, we have been going for about 2 hours. That's 2 hours of free content. Also, if you haven't yet, consider picking up my books, 2 Stories, which is my autobiographical story that talks about faith and mental illness, and talks about life growing up, having to go to a Christian school, witnessing a lot of hypocrisy at that school, also cosplaying as Indiana Jones for an entire year at school before cosplay was a thing, and dealing with isolation, neurodiversity, caregiving for somebody with panic disorder, all of that in 2 Stories. And it's hand lettered and handwritten, hand inked, and laboriously. And it's a beautiful book, and you guys should buy it. What else? I think I froze for a second there. I don't know if my connection's choppy on the audio, but I know the video was freezing. So let me know in the chats if you guys were experiencing that. Creosote. I don't know what creosote bushes are. I know we have a lot of tumbleweeds and stuff, if that's what you're thinking. I don't know what a creosote bush is. We have a lot of yucca as well, like yucca plants. Let's see here. But yeah, and also consider getting 2 Stories, which is my my graphic novel that's about 2 roommates that are polar opposites in their formative early 20s, who are trying to discover themselves and their identity. And Jacob, the main character, loses his father to cancer, which causes him to go reeling, questioning his identity and his purpose and his faith and belief in general. Sarah has recently gone through a breakup and is questioning herself. And as they're going through this self-identity questioning, they find themselves drawn to each other, and dreams and reality start interweaving in a doomed romance story that's kind of like in the vein of Fun Home or Ghost World. And starts talking about the threads of spiritual identity and personal identity and self-definition. And that's called Jacob's Apartment. So if you want to check that out, you should buy it. It's on Amazon. It's at bookstores. You can ask your local library to carry it. That's always a really good way to support the book. And then also there's an album called Modern Monsters that's out. That's a rock album. And it's out on streaming platforms everywhere under my name, Joshua Kemble. So those are all ways that you can support the indie creations that I do. Dylan said creosote is a bush that has small yellow flowers and gives off a scent when it rains. We might have those. Some person said, I've got Jacob's apartment. It's pretty good. Thanks. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Okay. I'm going to call this panel done in a second. And then we're going to play a trailer of some sort or another. And I'm going to get a little more coffee to fuel my creativity. Because I am fueled by coffee, ladies and gentlemen. Some person said it's the cat's pajamas. Hey, you know what? Cats in pajamas are genius. Like, whoever was the first person to think, I'm going to put a cat in PJs, that person should have, like, the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay. I also realized I wasn't using my rich black, so I need to do that. Okay. So we're going to fill this with rich black before we play a trailer. Fill all of these with rich black because that's the color that these need to be. Okay. Save. Zoom out. We're getting there, ladies and gents. I don't like the bottom left of this, so I'm going to fix that real quick. I don't like the bottom left of this sequence. I think that needs to be darker. I feel like I was less bold here, and I needed to be more bold. Be bold. That's what I'm going to say here. So I'm going to say to fill this, I want to fill this with some darker blacks. So there's more contrast there because I just think that needed to happen. Maybe here too. Okay. I just feel like that gives more atmosphere and tone. More tone and atmosphere. All right. Atmosphere. Okay, let's move this down. Consolidate that to one layer. Call that shading. Nice. Dylan said, you have Joshua trees and we have Gila monsters. Do you really? Are Gila monsters in Arizona? Because that's amazing. Those things are super dangerous, aren't they? All right. Dylan said about a month ago, I saw my first ever squirrel in our area. I thought my dad was BSing me the entire time. We have squirrels all over the place, man. Squirrels are all over our area. Yeah, we'll see squirrels or like groundhogs and not groundhogs. They're not groundhogs. They're I can't even remember what they're called. Not hedgehogs either. It's the other thing. Gophers. We have a lot of gophers in this area too. Okay. here is the trailer called Home Shopping. No, you know what? We haven't played this in a while. Let's play Wordzoid. This is a Jim Lujan. I'll be right back.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm gonna have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon?
Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right. We're going to do one more panel. And then I might have to do the rest off stream. So, I'll probably work for another hour and then I'm going to call it because I don't want to keep my sister up with my loud voice. So we're going to finish. We're going to finish this other panel. Philip said, my neighborhood is filled with squirrels, rabbits, chipmunks, foxes, raccoons, skunks, and even coyotes. We have a lot of coyotes out here. You know what's crazy? Generally, they're up in the hills in our area, but there are a lot of coyotes. There's an area near us called Quartz Hill that you wouldn't guess it. But so a lot of our area, a lot of the Antelope Valley, was founded based on gold. So there's a mine that you can actually explore. And when I was in high school, every once in a while, the rowdier ones of us would go deep into these mines. They were like really deep caves out in the desert. That were like old gold mines and very dangerous. I probably could have died. This is something I always think about when it comes to like the idea of determinism or just luck in life. There are so many things I did in high school, and I was a fairly decent, good kid. I wasn't getting up to like crazy things, but there were enough things that I got into that I'm lucky I didn't die. Like I'm lucky to be alive. Just so many dumb things. And one of them was this, where we'd go deep into these, gold mine. And you can actually look it up online too. I was curious about it because I remembered this vividly from when I was a kid. A lot of it was like teenage drinking, things we probably shouldn't have been doing as teenagers. But we'd go deep into like, the Tropico mine, which was like closed off. You weren't supposed to go in there. But it's out in Roseman. Anyhow, so this is a gold mine. It was like a giant vein of gold that was discovered in our area. And so they built a hotel for miners and like they built the railway. And this was kind of like the last stop of LA County. And all of it was driven by this drive for gold. Well, quartz, from what I remember, quartz usually creates veins of fool's gold, pyrite. And so there's this whole area that's like rich in quartz called Quartz Hill. And it's like this big mountain kind of area, like a mountain hills and stuff. And they're filled with like quartz and pyrite. So anyhow, that area is like stuffed with coyotes. Like there are so many coyotes in that area that I had friends growing up who lived in the hills, really pretty houses too. Cause like up in the hills of Quartz Hill, you can see like the lights of the city from, the houses up there. So people who have houses in those hills have this like beautiful vista at night. And like I said, the desert has these gorgeous, stars. And so like houses out there have just like such a beautiful view. But the friends I had growing up, a lot of them had lost pets. They had dogs or cats or whatever that, they didn't, maybe pay attention to like neighbors who were saying like, you got to watch out for coyotes. And, maybe they had like a dog door or something. And keep in mind that like the area I live in here, we don't get coyotes because it's just like way too like street level, like we're in the valley, not in the regions that attract coyotes. But these areas up in the hills, like, oh my gosh, if you had like a little dog or something and it was outside at night, like, it would disappear. A pack of coyotes would come and just take it. And that happened to a lot of friends I had who lived in those areas where they just have, this sad story about the time they lost their pup or lost their, kittens to like a pack of wild coyotes. And they never attack people. Like they just would prey on animals, but it was just up in the hills. So we definitely have coyotes. And the other day, man, this was wild. I was heading to work in the morning and I'm working, the place that I was teaching over the summer is like way out in the desert. And so it's like a drive, but I do it I do it in the morning, to get there by like school opening. And I'm driving and, there was like, I did a double take because there was just this coyote like in broad daylight, like near a street. That's actually not like a more suburban street than you'd expect to see a coyote. And it looked at my car and it's like the bright, just glowing eyes of a coyote, and it's clearly like, when you see a coyote, it's like got a little bit of dog-like features, but it's clearly a coyote. And, it's a different beast. And, and that was startling. It was kind of weird. I didn't expect to see it because it was like about to cross the street, like downtown kind of thing. And that was kind of weird. It definitely felt like something out of a movie, where you're like looking out the window and there's a coyote just glaring at your car. That was real interesting. They're really not mean to people though. Obviously if you lived out in the hills, you wouldn't want to leave a baby or a toddler out there at night. But in general, they're not gonna harm like humans. But yeah, so that's a thing in our area for sure. We definitely have a coyote thing. But I bet there's a lot of real beautiful like animals in nature. We definitely don't have foxes out here. They just die in the weather, So the only animals that thrive out here are like, deserty animals. The funny thing is the area I live is the Antelope Valley, and I don't know if there have ever been antelope in our valley. Maybe there have been, but I don't know where that term comes from. Maybe they existed and they just got like but there's no antelope out here. One thing we do have that's real cool around here is there's a place called the I think it's called like the Wildcat Sanctuary, and it's out in Rosamond again, which is like way out in the desert. And it's like this weird little compound. Oh, it's called the Feline Compound. And it's a weird compound that was started by somebody who wanted to rescue like these big cats. And so it's like bizarre because there's just out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, you can drive there, pay like a small donation and you can check out like panthers and like these crazy like big cats, and it's one of the key like rescue spots for big cats. So if you want to see some like panthers and tigers and stuff like that, you can, which is pretty cool. And it's not like a zoo, it's like a rescue, so you see them much more up close and personal. But yeah, we don't get any of the animals that require like forests or woods. Like you're not going to see foxes. You will see rabbits. That's pretty common. Like like hares, like jackrabbits and stuff. Like that's pretty normal out in the desert. And there's these kind of weird desert mice that kind of like you'll see every once in a while. But yeah. Dylan said, "Do you have roadrunners?" I have never seen a roadrunner out here. I think there are some out in like the closer you get to like Mojave and Bakersfield and stuff. I think there's more of that. Dylan said, "I've seen videos of people adopting puppies off the side of the road, and it turns out it was a baby coyote." Yeah, that's wild, man. You know what's funny to me is like if you ever watch videos of people who try to tame feral animals, and like they're real cute when they're like a puppy, and then like they get all freaked out because it's like, they tried to have like a pet raccoon or something, and it's like that's not a pet, like. And then they're just like freaked out when it like rips apart their house and like attacks them, and it's like, yeah, but it's a raccoon. That's not a it's not a domesticated animal. Yeah, that's always interesting to me when people like, or they'll try to like raise a coyote or something. It's like, dude, that is not your friend. Like they're friendly and they're not like vicious to humans, but they're definitely not like, that's not your pet dog, It's like trying to raise a wolf and thinking that the wolf's going to be tame. It's like, no, you're not going to tame a wolf, dude. That's just not going to happen. It's like, what's the other thing with that? That's always funny to me. Yeah. Dylan was saying wolf dogs are hella wild. Yeah. You don't tame the wild. Like, what's the other thing? Oh yeah. People who like, it's like the bear guy, like, that guy who thought he could just like live with bears and like hug them and stuff. It's like, there's some animals where you shouldn't forget that, these are, apex predators, I think there's something about human nature where we anthropomorphize animals so much that we forget that sometimes like, no, these animals are killers, and I think bears are definitely in that realm of like, people will be like, oh, look at the cute bear. And it's like, no, especially grizzlies. Like that is not your friend. It's not gonna, yeah. A grizzly bear's claw can rip open the roof of a car, without a ton of effort, like open it like a can of sardines. That's not your friend. Like, that's not something you want to just be like hugging and, hanging out with. I have a natural, healthy fear of bears. Coyotes, you don't have to fear as much, but still respect them, They're not your buddy. They're not your, I love dogs and animals and stuff like that, but there's some animals, they're not your friend, especially apex predators, I feel that way about, what's funny? This might be an irrational fear, but dude, killer whales scare the crap out of me, dude. like, I don't know if you've watched like documentaries on like killer whales, but I'm like, dude, those are like terrifying, man. Orcas. Whew. I would be so freaked out if I was like in the ocean and like an orca swam by me. Those are not friendly animals. And I think sometimes people want to like give animals like human emotions, and it's like, there's some that like, man, like, like the people who try to like befriend like tigers and stuff, and they view them as like house cats. It's like, yeah, but that's a house cat that like when you have a house cat, like every once in a while, right, it kind of wigs out and gets all primitive and decides to like scratch at your arm or something, because it's in like a playful kind of wild mood. And like almost every cat owner I know has gotten like a mild wound from their cat, right? Their cat might have like clawed their arm or something to get a mild little cut. Imagine that, but with a tiger. That's not going to be like a mild little wound. That'd be like, you've lost your arm now. Congratulations. Like, I think there's just some things in nature that we need to respect. Like, you need to respect the power of these animals. It doesn't mean you need to villainize them. Like people have done that with coyotes and wolves for years, where they make them much more harmful and evil than they really are. Where it's like led to like people like stupidly like hunting the animals because they start viewing them as like these enemies. We shouldn't do that, but also don't forget, with nature, man, there's power. And also, man, the wilderness it gets wild. It's not like, it's not like Gilligan's Island out there, I think sometimes people forget to like respect nature, Dylan said, look at the shark community. They're heavily villainized. Yeah, but I will also say, if you don't have a healthy fear of sharks, I don't know, man. Like I used to live in Orange County, Huntington Beach, and that's a spot that like sharks kind of dig swimming up in, and some of those sharks will eat you. Like, yes, don't villainize sharks, but also, man, when there's a shark warning, if you're swimming in that water, you're kind of a dumb person. Like, because every once in a while there's like a shark that just like loses their mind and starts deciding to eat people, and every once in a while there's a warning that shark is like on the coastline. And when you're surfing, man, if you're surfing or you're swimming out there with like fins, like you look like a giant fish, your surfboard looks like a seal. And all you got to do is watch a documentary on a pack of sharks or a shark, hunting a seal. Don't forget the power of a shark. Don't villainize them. Don't demonize them. They're not after humans. They don't even like the taste of humans, but they like the taste of seals. And if you look like a seal, they might take a couple bites out of you to decide, oh, this is human. I don't like the flavor of human, right? But don't forget, like the bite of a shark, man. it's not a wound you just kind of brush off and go, eh. Like, yeah. Dylan said, I have a healthy fear of sharks. Like I can get scared of sharks and think that one will come up and bite my legs off while I'm landlocked and in my home. if you quack like a duck. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, man. Like orcas, like they're magnificent, kind of amazing creatures. But dude, like the people who decided to put those things in like a SeaWorld type scenario and teach them to do tricks, and they're going to like do backflips and stuff with them. And then people flip out when like the orca just like loses their cool and pretty much like snaps a person in half. It's like, dude, it's an orca, man. This is an alpha predator. It's not a like little friendly plushie at home. It's like, dude, the orca is made to eat meat. It's a meat eating, beast. And they're very wonderful and intelligent, and probably one of the most intelligent animals on the planet. But don't forget, that orca's not there to like make friends with people and free willy this business, you know. Like they're a you know, it's equivalent to like a lion. Don't forget you're dealing with a lion, you know. The orca is like the lion of the sea. Like that orca can mess up a shark, you know. Easy. Yeah. I think people actually misunderstand orcas in that sense too, where sometimes they just like think they're like a plaything, you know. And it's like, yeah, we shouldn't villainize whales and get all into like hunting whales, but man, you know, if you're going swimming with a freaking killer whale, um, I don't know, you know, best of luck to you, I guess. Does that make sense? Oh man. Dylan said I accidentally deleted my duck comment. All right. What do we got here? Yeah, I'm not like an expert on animals or anything. And I think nature is pretty amazing and, you know, kind of amazing. But like one of my favorite documentarians is Werner Herzog. Like I love Werner Herzog. And one of the things I love he points out all the time in his documentaries, you know, including Grizzly Man, right? Where that guy got just brutally, you know, killed by bears. The guy who just like the whole time was like, I'm just going to live with bears. That's not their nature and stuff. And Werner Herzog, like the entire time in all of his nature documentaries, always admires and respects the fact that nature is brutal, man. It's not a Disney movie, you know. Like like nature does not care. It does not care who you are, you know, and it will eat you and spit you out, you know. Like that's nature. Like nature is not civil, right? Like a volcano doesn't care, you know, that you're filming it. Yeah, like if it spits at you, you're gone, right? Similarly, a grizzly bear is not viewing you as like this fun little plaything. And even if it is, you know, if you ever see like two bears like grappling with each other, playing, if it decides to do that to you, you're gone. Like you don't have like the thick fur of a bear to like protect you from like these giant claws like accidentally scraping you, you know? Like yeah. Anyhow. Yeah. It's even like that way with moose and stuff. Like I'm sure you guys, especially people in Canada or whatever, I'm sure you've heard stories of like people who like humanize like an elk or a moose or something, and they're like, "Ooh, I'll go up and take a picture," and then they get like mauled, you know. And it's like it's not like the moose is an evil thing, but dude, those antlers aren't like there for like show. Like they'll screw you up, man. Like those things will take you out. You know, they can knock your car out, you know, if you hit a moose. Like a moose is not I mean, they're pretty and they're cool and they're pretty docile, but man, they'll screw you up, man. They're not, you know, like, yeah, it's not a Disney movie where like the moose is going to be like, hello there, friend. I'm a moose and I'm friendly moose. And like, no, like, don't underestimate a moose. Dylan said civil is a human concept. Yeah, and animals are generally, like a lot of animals are generally peaceful and not out to get you. But it's just, you know. Dylan said mature is like Lenny from Mice and Men, and we humans are the puppies he accidentally kills due to his strength. Yes. Yes. That's actually that's actually a perfect way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes, and I think some of this is like a survival mechanism for people. I think sometimes we'll forget just how brutal like the world can be. I think quite often like people will read headlines about wars or something like that and kind of um almost like give wars more rules than exist. Forgetting that like warfare is like a brutal, horrible activity. It's never been pretty. It's never been civil, and war is not like a game where like everybody follows the same rules, and it's I mean war is fighting to the death. That's what war is. It is. It's fighting to the death. It's killing people, and killing people is brutal, right? It's not. I can't think of a way that you could like civilly kill someone. Like it's an awful thing, And I think sometimes people like are distanced enough from the reality of those kind of scenarios, where they can like, I don't know, make it like a prettier thing than it really is. Maybe I know this is goofy, but maybe that's why I wasn't really digging Deadpool. Like I get the like ultra violent humor and stuff, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, is death funny? Like, I don't know, I mean, I get it. I get it. It's dark humor and stuff, but I feel like sometimes when we devalue like human life, in mediums, it may not be a good cost, a good price, worth paying. And I get it. Like, it I guess it's funny. I don't know. Dylan said desensitized. Yeah. And again, like I like some dark humor, I've been a fan of dark humor, but I don't know. Let's see here. All right, guys. Dylan said, since I was a kid, I didn't like funny deaths. I'd get turned off by the movie. I had an era of my life where I was really into that stuff. I've always had a very clear difference in my head. Like I can handle a movie that's like ultra violent and stuff, but there are times where when it get like even Deadpool, it's not in good taste, but it didn't bug me. Like it just kind of bored me. But there are movies where it gets so close to reality that it's just a little too much. And I just like that's where I kind of draw the line. And then growing up, I remember there were these videos called Faces of Death. This is like pre-internet. And they'd be in like the back room of the video store. And I never watched them. But I had friends growing up who would like obtain a copy of Faces of Death, which was basically a video of just people really dying, like in brutal ways that were somehow filmed and then compiled on these like horrendous videos. And I remember just having like edgy friends and stuff who like loved watching those videos and stuff and just thought it was fascinating. And I never could do it. There's something about real violence that just, I have no interest in. Like, I have no interest in seeing real violence. I don't like watching people get hurt. I don't even like blooper reels where somebody like trips and like falls on the stairs and like eats it. I think I just feel too empathetic when I see that. I'm like, man, like I imagine the hospital bills after it. Like I don't don't know. There's nothing funny about it to me, to like the slapstick, the real slapstick stuff where it's like, I don't want to see a person really fall into a sewer manhole. Like, I don't mind it in a comedy, but I don't want to see that really happen. I don't know. That's just not in my blood, I guess, And I know there's a lot of people who like love that kind of stuff, like if you get injured, they want to see the injury and stuff. I'm just not one of those people. Like, if you get cut and stuff, I don't want to see it. Like, I don't want to see violence. Like, I don't enjoy it, Even like MMA and stuff. Like when I was a freelancer, I had to watch a lot of MMA fights because I did some art for an MMA champion. And so I had to watch a bunch of his fights just for like reference and stuff, And I could understand the appeal to it because there is like an art to it. Like there's a tactic to it and it's interesting in that sense. But just the violence in general, it was just like a little much where it's like, I don't really want to watch like people beat the crap out of each other. Like it's just not in my, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And I know there's some people who really enjoy that, I don't know. For me, it's not fun to see. So maybe that's a part of me that's like denying the primitive nature of nature or whatever, Dylan was saying, I do mostly like fail videos. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to finish this shading. And then like I said, I'm going to probably call it just because I don't want to keep my sister awake all night by talking. And honestly, I'm probably going to need a mild break after this panel is done. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and doing art with me, talking about weird stuff with me. Hopefully you got some work done. Hopefully you had fun. And hopefully it interested you. And if you liked this stream, please hit the like button so more people can come across this weird art stream that I do. Hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. Consider listening to Modern Monsters in its entirety, my new album. You can check it out on Spotify for free. You can even check it out on YouTube. Just look for Joshua Kemble Modern Monsters. You can check it out on Amazon, Apple Music, iMusic, all of the musics. And yeah, that would be nice. But in general, also consider supporting my indie comics. There's links to each book that I've written and published or had published below. And we're just going to finish this up. Also, check out the work of the people who have shown up in the chats. There's some really talented artists that show up in the live chat. And you should support and check out their work as well. We have like a nice little art community here. We got a nice community here. Yeah, up in here. It's been fun just chatting with you guys, and fun to talk about some interesting things about the weird desert I live in. Fun to hear about the strange creatures that live near you. Fun to work on comics. Working on comics is one of my favorite things. On a free day where I have no obligations, where I didn't have to worry about anything. Like, let's say somebody was like, you have all the money in the world. You can do anything you want. all the money in the world, you can do anything you want. Guess what it would be? Working on comics. I love this stuff, and I love being able to do it and hang out with you guys while doing it. It can be a pain, but I love it. And I think a lot of you guys love working on art and stuff too, and on your own projects too. So keep at it. Keep in the fight. It gets kind of hard sometimes and requires some discipline, but you can do it. Believe me, if I can make these books, there's no reason you can't. If I can make anything, there's no reason you can't. I'm not all that great at any of this stuff. So if I can, you can. All right, guys, we're almost there. I just have to mask this one spot, this hand. It's a hand that I like there. And then we'll kind of see where we go from there. All right. And then I think, yes. Okay, that's good. Okay, and then we're going to do here, and here. And finally, this last bit. And then we'll get rid of the transparency and we'll call it. Dylan was saying, he said there was a movie where kids were dropped off at their grandparents' place, but they were replaced by crazy people. So the kids had to fight back. And I was screaming into the TV, "No, you idiot." That's one of the fun things about like a horror movie, like a really great horror movie where you're like, don't do it. Don't walk into that room. It's kind of fun, you know, where you always feel like you'll watch those things and be like, why would you do like, that's one of the fun things about horror movies, you know, where you see the person just like naively, like a good example, like The Shining. Anytime I watch The Shining and I see the way she's holding the baseball bat when she's just the way she's holding the bat, I'm like, what are you, just get like a proper grip on that thing. You're not going to hurt anyone holding a baseball bat like that. Still to this day, if I watch The Shining, it's just, why would you hold a baseball bat like that if you're trying to defend yourself? It's like, it's so frustrating and genius for the director to have her hold the baseball bat like that. Cause you're like, you just know, it's like, you're not gonna, that's just not gonna work. I don't think that's gonna work the way you think it's gonna work. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Let's get rid of that fuzzy business there. And just kind of correct this a little bit. Okay, we're almost there. Just a little bit left to go here. Okay, I'm going to erase this, and then we're going to zoom out. And I think we're... I keep wanting to call it, but there's one little spot that I'm still not digging. It's like I'm just not being bold enough with the darkness. This is not a well-lit carriage here, so we can go darker. We can do this better. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so if you guys haven't yet, hit the bell so you get notifications when we go live. Yeah, and support indie creators, you know. Dylan said, let the darkness consume. Yes. Yes, the darkness is correct. So I'll probably finish this page off stream. We'll see, but I will be streaming again at some point. I might even be streaming while working on this page, depending on how far I get tonight. But we're going to call it a night for tonight. So I appreciate you guys hanging out there, hanging with me, and I hope you have a good night, and I will see you on the next live stream. Thanks, guys. Bye.